Welcome to my first video blog. I'm here with my student Chase Crochet. He's a super talented singer, writer, and guitarist who's beginning to make some waves around here. He's originally from Salt Lake City, but he's been spending a lot of time here recently in Los Angeles. In fact, he and his band Via look like they may be playing here within the month, so stay tuned for that. I'm really thrilled that he's here to have this little chat with me on the journey of being a young artist today. And I believe he has some questions for me as well on how I might advise up-and-coming performers in the music business. Hey, Chase.
Hi.
So one of the questions I have for you is, how does a crew approach help in building a career? Do you have a crew around you which makes this whole deal happen?
I definitely do. One thing that I see a lot of artists sort of miss out on is something that they try and focus too much on the whole picture. They try and say, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to book gigs, and I'm going to, do all of this. But really, it's really impossible. The artist needs to be able to focus on their art. They need to focus on songwriting and improving. So really having those people in your team, like managers, accountants, even music attorneys, being able to handle different sides, handle booking gigs, handle doing deals, different things like that, is really, really beneficial. Another thing that's really key for me is all of my fans. The fans have been absolutely amazing. We actually played a gig just the other day, a little fundraiser for a middle school, and the girls in the crowd actually got so loud that we couldn't hear the music. It was really, really spectacular.
Like the Beatles revisited.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has a right to be successful, you have the whole package. You've got everything going on. But I'm curious if you are putting all sheets to the wind and really going for this whole horse, or do you have an exit strategy or a backup plan, just ruminating the back of your mind, just in case what you deserve doesn't happen?
Well, I've always been very realistic. I know that it's a really difficult business, and I've always been willing to work as hard as I can to make it. But one has to be careful because it is such a risky business. So one thing that I've been focusing on is not only focusing on my music, but also sort of looking at the business side and saying, well, eventually, what is something that I would like to get into? What is something that I would like to look at? So I'm still looking at colleges, even though I've been having a lot of success here. I've been still looking at colleges and looking at furthering my education so I can stay better prepared for different things that may happen in the future.
But you want to stay within the entertainment field?
Of course. There are actually quite a few schools now offering popular music degrees, music industry degrees. It's really, really amazing.
That's great. Do you have some opinions on particular skills or knowledge that you would recommend for a performing artist to get under their belt?
I would say being experienced in the studio is a huge, huge asset. Being able to go in and do any part, any song, regardless of instruments. I mean, even if you're a guitar player, learn how to play the bass guitar. If you're a bassist, learn how to play the drums. Sort of have at least a working knowledge of a bunch of different instruments, because that can really help you in the future. Also, I would say that learning a bunch of different music and trying to look at a bunch of different musical genres has always really helped me. I started out with the School of Rock, and so I had a lot of experience playing covers, and so that really benefited me because I was able to look at things from a different perspective. Even now I listen to everything from movie soundtracks to hip-hop records to rock and roll records to blues to jazz, and that sort of gives me a good background when I'm writing my own material.
Oh, so it not just helps you in terms of seeing the big picture, but it helps you as a creative artist. You don't feel like you're selling out on pop and rock.
Definitely not.
Okay. Well, do you have any questions for me?
Sure. I would say, what would you think is the number one thing that a lot of up-and-coming artists really miss out on?
Well, I have to agree with what you were saying a minute ago about focus. People who focus think that focus is the main element. They just focus on their songwriting, but they don't know how to read music, let's say. They can write songs, but they've never been in the studio before. So I recommend that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, that you want to learn everything you can about this thing called the music business, and that includes legal, how to read a contract. I know lots of artists, they're so talented, and they're not going to make a dime. Or they're going to make money and lose all of it to unscrupulous people around them because they're too afraid or too lazy even to read a contract and learn what goes on that is going to impact whether they can pay the rent or not. Writing, keyboard playing, guitar playing, everything you said, recording studio stuff. Not just how to open your laptop, but what's the history of recording? What's the future of recording? How can I record other people?
Definitely.
The more that you know, the more ways you can make a living and still have music be the center of your life. Teaching. A lot of singers go, I don't want to think about teaching. I tell people, think about it. Because if you're a good singer, people are going to come up to you and say, show me something. And at some point, they may actually pay you to show them something.
Yeah.
So teaching is not a sign of defeat. It's just one more thing that a performer can do eventually on the side when they're old, tired, don't want to do it anymore or whatever.
That actually helps tie me into my next question, which is actually, you've told me before that you started out as a performing artist and wanting to get into the recording business, but you've told me that you had a lot of experiences and it led to your career as a teacher. And maybe how should people better view some of their successes or some of their failures in the music business, and how can that serve them in a future career that they may not foresee?
Great question. Well, every success and every failure is going to teach you something. You're going to learn something that you can pass on later, that perhaps someone in the future may actually pay you for that advice, your opinion. You come to working with other people, advising other people, and even being able to advise yourself based on your experience. For instance, when I worked with Frank Zappa, I didn't go into that situation because I was a big Zappa fan and wanted to go on tour with him. I went because my boyfriend was a drummer who was a big fan and wanted to audition for the tour. So I just went to help him set up his drums. And before I knew it, he was fired and I was hired. So his failure was an opportunity for me. But if I hadn't been there, that would have never happened. Plus, as I was working with Frank and doing the rehearsals, my boyfriend was instrumental in helping to support me and advise me, because I didn't actually know any of Frank Zappa's music when I went into it. So every chance, every opportunity you have to meet someone, to learn something, you grab it, you take it, you put it in your toolkit for later.
It's all networking. It's all learning.
It's all people. It's all learning. It's all information. It's a huge journey. Yeah, it's full of risk. It's also full of excitement, and you have to feel so thankful that you get to do something that people only dream about doing, and you just, it's a big game. But life's like that.
But it's an amazing one.
It's an amazing game, and you see how far you can get with it, and have a good time along the way, and live and love and learn along the way, and you just never know how it's all going to come together.
One final thing that I would probably have to ask is, what are some things that people can do right now, both artistically and from a business perspective, to improve themselves?
I think people don't read enough. There's a lot of reading material out there about history. I like to look at successful people and look, what did they do to get from where they started to where they are now? But you have to be able to read. You have to have an attention span of some length, enough to read a short article at least online. I'm afraid a lot of young people, they just want it to come to them. They just only want experience. They don't want to put the work in to study, to read. But you want to talk to everybody you can. Pick their brains. Find out what they do, what they think. And just put, again, like I said, put it all in a big bag, because some of it's going to be bitter, some of it's going to be too rosy. No one's going to agree. That's the other thing. That's one of the hardest things about being an artist, is some people are going to say you're too pop. Some people are going to say you're not pop enough. So to me, that's the worst part of being an artist, is saying, what is my direction and how am I going to stick to it? How am I going to have a vision and have courage about it? Because everyone is going to have an opinion, and I welcome that opinion, but it also can get really confusing to know, what should I really do? So you have to have some core strength about it.
And stay true to yourself. Stay
true to yourself, but knowing that's going to change too.
Yeah.
It's going to change as you grow, and you're going to hear some new artist come out and you go, oh, that is amazing. I'm inspired by that. I'm not going to say I'm going to steal, but you'll be close to it. Some of my best stuff came because I was so inspired that it was somewhere between inspiration and stealing their idea. Without that, I don't think I would have come up with a song that I later came to feel was my best song. So it's about being open, and don't sit in a room. Don't sit in a room all day long with your computer. Get out there, see lots of shows, study performance, study how people move, what they say, how they sing, how they joke with an audience, how do they share the love with an audience, how do they show gratefulness and graciousness, how do stars act like stars. So steal from the greats, that's what I always say. Well, we're done for tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me, Chase, and I wish you all the best, because I really think something really big's going to happen for you.
Thank you.
Tune in next time. Bye.